Good Monday morning, everyone. I don't know about you, but August growing up for me was back to school. And I know a lot of places don't start until after Labor Day, and the school districts here in Hillsborough and over in Marion, where I sub, are not starting until September 9th to be exact. Um, that is my birthday. And so um I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not in school because that what a bummer birthday present that would be to have to start birthday on school. And obviously, here's Peaches for your morning purrs. Hello, and that is the morning purr report. So, um, to me, August just screams fall, and typically, for me growing up, last Thursday or Friday, depending on what grade I was going into, would have been the first day of school, and it was always a half day. Um, Thursday was a half day, and you pretty much went from 8:30 to 12, and it was pretty much a day to take your backpack into school and unload all of those brand new school supplies, and maybe do a fun activity with your new teacher, and then go home. At least that's how it was K through sixth. And I remember it was always a tradition after at lunch. Mom always took that day off from work because my mom worked as a waitress, but she always took off it that day so that we could go and have a fun back to school lunch. And in Hillsborough, there was a McDonald's. It's now where the Wendy's is. That Wendy's bought the building after the McDonald's closed, and they remodeled it. Um, but we would always come over and have McDonald's, and I would tell who's in your class this year, because even though you had a classroom list, it was always subject to change up until the start of school. Um, so we would have lunch, and then Friday was the first full day of school for everyone, because the way it works for Marion School District is that K through 6th, 7th graders, ninth graders, and any new students K through 12, or I guess 7th through 12, would go on Thursday. And now Thursday they go all day. But that gives the high school students, the 7th, ninth, and any new students, a chance to learn their way around the school. That way, they're not trying to find their classes and with, couple, 50, 60, 70 other students running around. Now, the building that I went to for elementary school is K through 5th. The middle school building is now 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the high school is still 9th through 12th. But 6th grade is still considered part of elementary school, not middle school. They're not allowed to play middle school sports. It's very confusing to me. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna move them over to the building where they participate in pep rallies. They go to class with some of these students because because sometimes you may have a sixth grader who's taking algebra 1 because they're really smart, but they can't participate in any sports because they're still elementary kids. Explain this one to me, because it's been that way for about 3 years and I still don't get it. But I really liked when I was in 7th grade and then in ninth grade. I really did like that first day of school with just my classmates, because you got to know, okay, this is the best way to get to this place and this is the best way to get to this classroom, but you never use the library as a shortcut. The library pretty much encompasses 90% of the second floor of the high school building, the main high school building. And it there's a door. Like if you open the door and you walk straight through to the other door, you would like cut out going down the hall and up around and down the side. It would cut off like 2 minutes. If you did that and the librarians caught you, one, you got written up for it, And two, you still had to go back and around, which would make you late. Um, One of the things that the upperclassmen like to do was to say, "Oh, don't worry, like that really won't happen to you. Go ahead and do it. Just do it, and they just act like you're gonna check out a book." Yeah, I was never brave enough to do that. I'm like, I would rather just walk all the way around and not incur the wrath of the librarian because our librarian at that point was pretty cranky. I think it was either my senior year or the year after that she actually ended up retiring, and I think the student body threw a party. She was just one of those librarians that it was a quintessential cranky librarian. Not the nice Madam Librarian from The Music Man. No, this is the gray, frizzy hair, dresses like she's 100, doesn't really like kids librarian. So half of my classes were for high school were in the main high school building. The other half of my classes were in what was called the Hill Building. And the Hill Building today is now shared by Butler County Community College. On the bottom floor and the top floor are high school classrooms. But it is actually the oldest working high school building in the state of Kansas. Um, it's been remodeled a little bit to bring it up to code within the restrictions and regulations of the National Historical Society because it's on the Register of Historic Places. And if you've ever dealt with a building that's on that register, you will know that there are codes and guidelines, and they give you a set sheet of paper, like contractors that you can use. Um, but one of the students, she would have been a senior when I was a freshman. Um, and I think there was a couple before her, but when I was in middle school, so it would have been fairly new when I was a freshman. Um, there were two sets of stairs, and they would have come up this way to go to a big square landing, and then they would both go up this way. Well, they ended up putting a wheelchair lift in there. It's kind of like an open air elevator. You kind of walk in and you latch the door with like a little pin latch. It's literally almost like a hook and eye, and you latch it and you press the up button and it takes you up. So they took out the of these two stairways, they took out this one and put the wheelchair lift here. So you literally had to come in the door over here, you pass the wheelchair lift, go around the corner, and you go up the one set of stairs here, but there was still the two sets here. So you could either go just turn the corner and go up, or you could kind of cut across the landing and go up. And it just kind of depended what classroom you were going to because, and this is all based on my memory of high school almost 15 years ago and what my classroom and what the classrooms were then. So if you went up the stairs and you took a right, you went up the stairs and directly to your left was the ninth grade freshman English classroom, which was taught by Mary Griffith, and we all called her Mama G. And I had English freshman year, last period of the day. And that year, they started doing what was called block scheduling. You have a certain class Monday, Wednesday. You have another set of You have a set of classes Monday, Wednesday. You have another set Tuesday, Thursday. And then on Friday, you have all of your classes for a shortened amount of time. So if, say, your class periods on Monday, Wednesday were from 8:30 to 10, it would be 8:30 to 9:15, you had 2 minutes to get from one class to the other, and then the next class period, and this would have been on Friday. It was all like pretty much the Monday through Thursday time frames were all cut in half, and they shoved everything in on Friday. So the last class of the day went into something that was called, what did we call it? It was almost like homeroom. Homeroom, and it was pretty much homeroom. Homeroom was kind of the end of the day, and I don't remember exactly what we called it. But this was the time. It was from 3 to 3:20 because high school got out at 3:20 because all of the buses came to the middle school, high school first, and they still do. And so the students from the high school that are riding the bus go down and get on the buses because they're all in the back parking lot, and they load the buses, and you have to be on that bus by 8:25. So you literally have 5 minutes to get your stuff together and get on the bus. That's a little easier for middle school students to do than high school students, but in theory, what a lot of the bus riders did was they got their book signed. We had, and it was called an agenda book, and it was in elementary school, it was a full 8.5 by 11 book because, like, you don't write as nice. And I will tell you now, I still wish that they had given us full size ones because in high school, they gave you ones this big to put in all of your classwork on one side. That doesn't work for me. I write big, I write sloppy. If I had had the math and science skills, Sam probably would have told me to become a doctor because I had the writing down pat. But in the back of these agenda books, they had your hallway pass, and you would fill it out like 3 o'clock, um, going to, and you would write locker for books, and the teacher would sign off on it. And there was always a teacher in like who didn't have a class that would kind of monitor the hallways, and all you kind of had to do is flag them down and say, hey, I'm going to be at my locker, I'm going to need you to sign my return time. And so they would look at their watch and they'd write down, okay, you got to your locker at 3:02. So because literally you probably had to walk, if you were in the English classroom, you literally had to walk down the steps, walk across the hallway, and walk, up to the one of the three floors of lockers. But as a freshman, our lockers were actually on that top floor. So, you understand what I'm saying. It took a little bit to get there. And then you would get whatever books that you needed, put away whatever books you didn't, and then you would flag down the teacher again, and she'd sign it off saying, okay, it is 3:15, and you're going back to Mrs. Griffith's room, and you would literally pop back over there, so they would re-sign you back in to the classroom to pretty much turn around and leave. So that's kind of how it worked there. Um, but from 3 to 3:20 was this homeroom style work hour. If you weren't in a club, typically you just stayed in your class, your last class of the day, and did homework. I will tell you, my freshman year, we just partied. We loved Mrs. Griffith. Mrs. Griffith is an amazing teacher. My mom, when I was going into 7th grade, my mom actually quit her job at Kingfisher, which was a restaurant out at the Marion County Lake, which is no longer there. It's been converted into a bed and breakfast that's for sale because they charged outrageous prices. But she had been subbing for years at the elementary school because the job that she worked was off on Mondays and Tuesdays. So she subbed through the school system on Mondays and Tuesdays. Good morning, Donna. Oh, you're going to make Sam's burgers this week. That's so awesome. Please let us know what you think of them. And if you end up using the same type of mold system that he does, let us know because I will let him know that will make his Monday. We all need something that makes our Monday. Right. And you had treats. My internal alarm, and I'll get back to the school thing in a second. My internal alarm goes off at like 4 a.m. because Sam's alarm goes off at 4:20. Because in the past, like my phone maybe has died or the powers went out and the alarm clock what we used to have that was like like you plugged it in. I know that ages us a little bit. Peaches. uh, the electricity went off, so it wasn't on. And so I just trained myself to wake up early enough that I knew that if something was going on, I'd be able to get Sam up and out the door for work. And now his own internal alarm clock wakes him up at 4. But I heard her gagging in here, and with the weather changing again, she's getting her hairballs again. So I kind of just let her get sick, which is hard to do as a kitty mommy. But once I got that cleaned up and she got her some water, I gave her some Temptations hairball treats, and hopefully those help. What? Do you smell mommy's coffee? I'm having coffee this morning, and I'll get to that in a second. Hold on. I need to see what she needs. Hold on. What's the matter? Nothing? Okay, whatever. Whatever. She's a silly kitty sometimes. I see you have water. You do not need mine out of the Keurig. Anyway, I was talking about school. I lost my train of thought. Of course I did. Let's see. Mrs. Griffith and my mom. Okay. So my mom went to work for Head Start, and it's a government-funded preschool program. And mom had subbed there quite a bit over the my 6th grade year. And so she went to work there when I started in middle school. And one of the things back then was that you had to be attending courses and you had to get your 2-year degree in early childhood education. So mom had already, because my mom didn't go to college. She went to school at a time where she actually was not allowed to graduate. Um, if you've seen the TV show Reba, and the principal wants to expel Cheyenne for being pregnant so that she doesn't tarnish the high school. Well, that is actually what my mom went through. She wasn't expelled, but my mom she came home from school and got married. Um, she had to drop out of the cheer. It wasn't a cheer team. It was like a pep squad. She had to drop pep squad. She had to drop choir. She had to drop all of her extracurricular activities. And then she was a pregnant high schooler in the 1950s, but she was at least married. But so she was not allowed to walk across the stage. So my mom never really had a true high school graduation. And I think that's one of the reasons why she really pushed my brothers and I to make sure that we got that experience, because she didn't. She was literally mailed her diploma and that was it. But my mom had been, when she was subbing, my mom wanted to know what she was um, supposed to be knowing. And so she had been taking classes through different colleges um, for the couple years prior. And it would maybe sometimes be a 2-day school at maybe Emporia State, or a 2-day class in Wichita, or a 2-day class. I think there was one out in Fort Hays. And mom just went, and because it was summer, um, I I went, and it was pretty much kind of a little mini family vacation. Mom would go to class, dad and I would do something, or we would go to the hotel and I would read and dad would watch something on TV while mom was in class. And so going into when she was going to work full time, she had all these credits. And so mom got all the transcripts from the different locations and sent them to Butler, which is Butler County Community College. It's based out of El Dorado here in Kansas, but they have little subsidiaries, suburbs, mini colleges. I don't know exactly what you want to call them, little offshoots at different locations. And one happened to be in Marion. And they combined, excuse me, all of the credits. And they're like, well, Jane, you only need, pretty much at that point, all she needed was her gen ed classes. And so she started taking one class a semester. She took math algebra, she took comp 1, she took science, she took random classes. And Sam and I were living in Washington. He was with the army, and I get a phone call from my sister-in-law, and she's like, "Lena, has mom told you?" And I start freaking out. I'm like, "What? No, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Nothing's wrong. Mom's graduating." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome." So it was about the time when the church that we went to growing up was doing their senior recognition night. And um so I called the church and I talked to the secretary and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know mom is graduating." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yes, mom is graduating." So typically they do a cake with little graduates on it. And then it's cut into however many pieces. Usually if there's more than 4, they'll do 2 cakes and they'll cut the cake into fourths, and we get our own portion of the cake from the church. But if you're graduating from college, they'll usually do like a little small singular cake, like an individual one. And so the night that they did senior recognition, they had this one cake here and this smaller cake over here. And mom was like, I she said something to one of the other ladies. She's like, "Oh, there must be a college graduate." And they're like, "Yeah." And they didn't say anything because my mom hates attention. And I was thinking, I'm so glad I wasn't there. And the thing is, mom still hasn't said a whole lot about that. It's mom. I guess she can retaliate at any time, huh? Um, but they're like, and graduating from college is Jane O'Connor, and I got a phone call. But it was really nice to get that mom was acknowledged, and she graduated, and she still has her purple graduation gown and everything. So she got to walk many years later, but she did at least get to walk, and that made me feel really proud, even though I couldn't be there. Um, th- Christine, back that was before Zoom and stuff. Otherwise, I'm sure that we could have streamed it for me to see. But I got to see pictures of it later on. I'm trying to just figure out where the sun is. Sorry. So anyway, the way that connects to school is that mom's English teacher was Mrs. Griffith, who was my English teacher, and she was also in charge of makeup for theater. And I was in theater all growing up and all through high school. So it it was just this time of year, it's just to me it screams back to school, which is what this whole last 20 minutes has been. Um, but I don't know. Back to school always makes me a little sad because I always wonder, especially going through the school supply aisles, knowing that if I had carried babies to term, I would have a seventh grader, would be my oldest. I'd have a fifth grader, a fourth grader, maybe a second grader. I lose track sometimes, but I always remember my oldest. I always know what grade she's gonna be, he or she would have been in, because she would be the same age as my niece. And you sometimes see her in the chat, Mad Life. They would be the same age, and so I think that's why I dote on her so much, is because my baby would be her age. My friend Teresa, her oldest, um, would be this is 5 days younger than Mad, and so all three of them would be like right in the same age pocket. Like birthdays would be right at the same time. And so I dote on those 2. I dote on Dana and I don't dote on Maddie, just because my baby would be that same age. And so the beginning of school is sometimes hard for me. because I'll see the school supplies, and I'll go, what would he or she have been into? What would he or she have picked a purple pencil box, or would this be the year that's like, no, mom, I have to have one for a 5 star? Or growing up, would they have wanted Lisa Frank or Spider Man? So back to school, and I mean, everyone mourns the loss of a child differently, but I think for me, because it was the time of year that I loved going back to school simply because we got to go shopping for all the new stuff. I hated school. I was bullied a lot, but it wasn't so bad right at the beginning of the school year, and I think that's why I liked it so much. Is because it's the time when, like, everyone's feeling happy. Yeah, maybe it was stress. I don't know. But I always loved going back to school. I hated school after about a month in, but I loved the back to school points. And I think that's why that is a time that's harder, because that was my favorite time, and I would have that energy, that excitement, I would have tried to pass on to my kids. And so that's one of the times it's hard for me, is back to school. Holidays aren't, you would think, oh well, the holidays are probably hard to not really. Um it's back to school is my brain time. To so some people's it's Christmas, some people's it's the birth date. If you can kind of calculate that. If it's pre-birth, or if you had a definite date, you kind of end up focusing on that date. But mine is back to school. Um, it's one of the reasons that Sam and I do a lot of donations during that time. We donate to back to school drives. We donate when we during the holidays, we always grab a couple of angels off the angel tree, and we try to pick ages that our kids would have been. So it's just one of the ways that we can feel connected to them, is to um take care of help someone else who may need some extra help during the holidays, because we don't have our own kids to um do that for. So, and on another topic, go someplace happier. On Friday, you may have seen me post a picture of it on Instagram. One of the ladies that was one of my Girl Scout leaders, I had posted on my Facebook. Does anyone have a copy of the Cottonwood Cove Day Camp cookbook? Because I want to make some recipes out of it. And one of the ladies who I'm friends with, who was one of my leaders, who was the mom to a couple of girls I was in Girl Scouts with, one of her daughters was a year older and one of her daughters was a year younger. School wise, I was actually the same age as her older daughter. But my birthday fell to where I got pushed to the next group. She messaged me on Friday and said, "Hey, I'm on my way to your house." And I'm like, "Oh, that means I have a cookbook coming." So this is the Cottonwood Cove Day Camp cookbook, and this is such a part of my childhood. Um, and I thought I would share a little bit about that with you today as well. Cottonwood Cove Day Camp was the name of, and I don't know if I know that they didn't have day camp this year, and I know the attendance has been dwindling the past few years because there's so many other things to do over the summer. Um, but it was something I looked forward to every year. You start going as a daisy, and when I was in Girl Scouts, because I know that the grade level, like they've changed a little bit. When I was in Girl Scouts, you were a daisy in kindergarten. And for day camp, you got to go one day to day camp, and you went the last day, and you were divided up between those usually 3 to 4 brownie groups. And they said, okay, we're gonna put there was usually 2 or 3 daisies in each brownie group on the last day, depending how many were there. And so you helped, like, there was always a chore chart, and it was like, okay, on this day, these two people did this, and you helped either get the wood for the fire, but of course the adults like fire. You might help cook, you might help find a centerpiece, and by centerpiece it was, hey, let's go grab some driftwood, because it was by the lake. It was at the lake, by the swimming area, and um, so as daisies you went one day, and then you were really excited to be a brownie because you went 3 days or 3 or 4. And when I was in Scouts, it was 4 days. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so it was pretty much all week. And it was from 3 p.m. to like 9 p.m. And so as a brownie, you got to start using this, which was the cookbook, because you actually plan your own meals. And I just look at I open this up, and it I go back to being that little brownie, and brownies when I was in Scouts was first, second, and third grade. And like one of the recipes that we made, like it was almost like you could just scan the previous year's menu and use it for the next year. Um, One of the recipes that we always made was called Mexicali Sally, and it was 3 pounds of hamburger, 3 cans of chili beans, 3 tomatoes that was chopped, 1 bag of tortilla chips, 1 onion chopped, half a head of lettuce chopped, 1.5 pounds of grated cheddar cheese, and 1 jar of mild picante sauce. You brown the hamburger and onion in a Dutch oven over the fire. You drain the fat, which of course we had an adult do. You add the drained chili or undrained. You either add drained chili beans or refried beans. And they what they did was they had both, and they took and divided it into two, and that way there was some with chili beans and some with refried beans. And then you serve on a plate in the following order. You put down your tortilla chips, then you put your meat and bean mixture, then you can put your lettuce, your cheese, your tomatoes, what you wanted, and then if you want, picante sauce. And this was always a good, pretty much it's a build your own nacho. And if was always a popular one because some people didn't want the lettuce, the tomato. There was always some with, if I remember correctly, I think the refried beans mix didn't have onion in it, and the chili bean one had onion in it because some people didn't want onions, and it was just a way to keep it all straight. But this is a recipe that we made. I think I ate it every summer from first grade through my senior year of high school. Um, Another one, and this is a very Midwest dessert, I think. It's monkey bread. We had that for breakfast as a junior. Um, One of the things, like another one that we had for dinner as a brownie was foil dinners, and it's hamburger, carrots, potatoes, and onion, and foil. And you take and you lay out tear off a piece of foil, and you make a hamburger patty. You season it with your salt and pepper, and you put slices of carrots, potatoes, onions, whatever you want in it. You fold it up and you shove it in the fire and you let it cook, and that's it. The grease from the hamburger helps keep the fire going. Um, it takes about 20 minutes for a well done burger. Um, you served it with ketchup, or we had ketchup and mustard options, and so that was always another really popular one as a brownie. So then as a brownie on the final night, so Friday night was always a big night. Um, the brownies got to stay overnight with the big girls, with the juniors. And so um, I remember that very well. And that was back when, excuse me, they still had the quintessential Girl Scout tents, the very teepee style tents, and you couldn't you had to like make sure that everything was shoved in the center of the tent, and you couldn't touch the sides because if you touch the sides, you're gonna mess with um the weatherproofing and all kinds of stuff. And so I remember that so well. And then we got to get up the next morning and help make breakfast, which essentially was cereal because at that point, the juniors had stayed Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and then they had Friday night dealing with the whole bunch of little third graders. They were ready to go home and actually get some real sleep. So it was cereal and kind of some leftovers from breakfast and past, I think, if I remember correctly. Then we became juniors. And I remember being so excited to be a junior in Girl Scouts. And here's why. It was pranking. And pranking is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. We would play a prank on the older girls, and the older girls would play a prank on us. And I remember one year, one of the moms of one of the girls my age was, or maybe she was a year younger, was the camp director. And she, every night, like right at the beginning, like she actually, like one, I don't remember if that was the year that she was one of our leaders or if she started being our leader the next year. It was the next year. So she came to one of our last meetings as a junior. Now you have to remember, we had been talking, like when they started talking about day camp, the first words out of our mouths were, we get to prank this year because it was all they talked about the year before as when we were brownies. And we're like, this will be cool. This is so much fun. And it's like harmless things like toilet paper, like um, so when people are around their campsite or shaving cream in their like soaking like their firewood they had ready for breakfast with shaving cream so they couldn't use it. I mean, it was silly stuff like that. Nothing that was damaging or harmful. And she came to our meeting and she goes, "Now, ladies," and I remember this very distinctly because we were all crushed for like the first 2 minutes. I want you guys, ladies, to know there will be no pranking this year. Well, what's the point of going to day camp if we can't prank? So she said her piece and she went on, and our leader looked at us and went, "Pranking's a part of Girl Scout camp tradition. We prank." I loved her. Um, then that was a very, very busy year for me. No, that would have been sixth grade. So I I was very excited, but I was still very shy. I've always been very shy. I'm not a very outspoken, outgoing person, except with you guys. I like it's like I said, I was teased and kind of bullied in school. And so I think I tend to try to what? What? I love you too, sweetie. Um, I think this kind of lets me be a little bit more open. But so we did day camp. Um, and we pranked the cadets, which is the next level after juniors, um, pranked us the second night, I think, but we held off until Friday night, and that's because we wanted to be able to do it with the brownies, and we knew that they'd be loud and they'd blow it, the quiet part because they're excited, which that was the point. It was a lot of fun. And I think we ended up taking their dip bags, and a dip bag is something that's very it's a very our council, I think, because I've mentioned it in other Girl Scout for like, what the heck's a dip bag? And a dip bag is literally a mesh bag that looks kind of like a laundry bag, and you store your plate, your cup, your silverware in it, and once you wash it and you rinse it, you put it back in its bag and you dip it in the hot sanitizer water and you hang it up on the clothesline, and then it dries and it's completely sanitized and clean after it's been washed. So we took all their dip tags and threw them in the tree. I mean, that's all we did. Um, so the next year, going into 5th grade, um, again, we were that was the year that that camp director um became one of our troop leaders along with my mom. And we were getting closer to camp, and she was in charge of camp again. And she's like, "Now remember, there's no pranking at camp. It doesn't set a good example for the younger girls." Yeah, okay. So she made an announcement about it at camp. And we had all kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we weren't going to get to prank. We forgot to include the opinion of our leaders of the day, which was not my mom or that person. And my mom really didn't have a problem with pranking as much as I kind of thought that she would, because it was all in fun. It wasn't anything really mean or destructive. It was really just in good fun. And so they're like, "We're gonna prank," and so I can't remember what we did, but it was the next day during camp, in front of everyone. She goes, "So the juniors decided to prank last night." And we're all like, "Yes, yes, we did." And the cadets are like side eyeing us from like across because we formed a horseshoe around the flagpole because we always did the Pledge of Allegiance to start the day at camp, and we sang taps at the end of camp, at the end of the night. And so um, they were kind of eyeing us from across the horseshoe. Um, I don't remember what we did. Oh, yes, I do, because that would have been the last year as a junior. Um, we took shaving cream and covered all the tables. We knew it wasn't going to hurt anyone else because for the week of camp, we rent out and rent. They lake doesn't charge us anything for it. It's kind of like they're giving to the community. So they just kind of cordon off a whole cove point for the cadets and juniors. There's one cove for the cadets, one cove for the juniors, and then all the spots right across from the lake office are ours. So we get about half the lake for that week. They make no money on it. They graciously donate it, and so huge thank you, I guess, to the Marion County Lakes Park Commission for doing that. They still do that to this day, actually. Um, They're like, "So girls," I told them not to clean it up. So because that happened to be the day they were going jet skiing, the juniors were. Um, we couldn't go jet skiing until we cleaned it up. And so I think we lost like 20 minutes of our jet ski time um, because we had to just take buckets of water and wash off the table, which is something they could have done. But I think if I remember correctly, she was overnighting with the cadets that night, which is I think the reason why we did it that night because she had hacked off one of the other adults who was in charge of us. And so, do you want to come say hi? You want to say hi to everybody? Oh, hi. She's standing on my earphones. Hello. No, there you go. You're standing on my headphones. There. Are you happy now? All right, there you go. So I'm pretty sure that's why we ended up doing it that night was because she had done or said something to hack off one of our adults that was overnighting. So we just took buckets of water and like went and they cleaned off. So then and I didn't particularly want to jet ski anyway, so I just rode in the boat. So the summer after my 6th grade year, um, there was a really big event in Girl Scout history. Um, Marion, and back then Kansas had several councils, and now it's just one council. It's the Heartland something council. But back then they had multiple councils in Kansas, and I was part of the uh, Flint Hills Girl Scout Council. And the Flint Hills Girl Scout Council decided to host a Girl Scout Jamboree. Now, one of my leader at that point, her and my mom, of course, is one of my leaders. She was one of my leaders like almost every year. It was a way for her to, because Girl Scout meetings were on Tuesdays, it was an opportunity for mom to be able to spend a little bit more time with me and one of my extracurricular activities. And so mom and the other leader, my other leader that year, they were actually helping with the jamboree. And so 90% of my weekends and part of my summer was spent in a car driving from Marion to Emporia, which is about an hour from where I live, helping get ready for this massive event. We took over the whole lake for a week. If you are my age, maybe a little older, and you were in Girl Scouts, y- you may have actually attended the Girl Scout Jamboree in Marion. And I will try to find some links on Google about it. And if I can find some, I will link them in the description. It was it was so much fun. Um, there was girls from all over the US. Then we had some girl they had been planning this for several years. So it wasn't just like a hey, let's do this thing. They had actually started planning it at least 3 years ahead. Maybe when I was in 3rd grade. They started like the rumors like from Disney, like you hear rumblings years before and then like nothing. Well, there was rumblings and rumors and information sent out so that people would have time to fundraise like money. I Wichita Airport probably had never seen so many people come through the airport, especially teenage girls. We had girls from all over the US that flew in, bussed in. We had girls here from England. We had girls here from Japan. There were girls from Alaska. There were girls from Australia, I want to say. It was from all over. And like you you got to interact. Like, you interacted with your troop. Like, that's where you slept. You had campsites, and it was literally like, here's a strip of tents, and you had like a sign that said, okay, this particular set of tents belongs to Girl Scout troop, blah 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 blah, and you had a name for yourselves, and we decorated quilt blocks. We were something bugs. Sunshine bug? I don't remember. Something bugs. The ladybug? No, we weren't ladybugs, I don't think. I don't remember exactly. I'm doing good to remember what I'm remembering, y'all. um, but our my leader at that point, her um she had daughters that were a little older and a little younger. And one of her daughters actually had needed to have heart surgery. And it wasn't supposed to happen for like another month. But last minute, they called and said, "Hey, we've had a cancellation. We're going to move you up to the week of the jamboree." So mom is helping her scramble to find people who would cover because she had planned to be there all day, all night for a whole week. She loved us immensely to deal with us for 7 days a week, 24/7. So some people came out and stayed all day. I swear there was a different person there every day for 7 days because we got there on Sunday and left on Saturday. And some people were there for a couple days. We had a couple people that came for just days. Mom was working at Kingfisher. Remember, mom was working at Kingfisher. She would get off work at Kingfisher, go home, clean up, get her overnight bag, stay overnight camping in a sleeping bag on the ground to get up early, go home, get maybe a half an hour more of sleep, to come back, to get up, get ready, and go to work, to get off work and do the same thing for 7 nights. My mom is amazing and loved me and still does immensely to do that. Jacqueline, welcome in. Glad that you're here. So, the National Guard came in and they provided a big army shower for us. Like, we literally showered in bathing suits. Um, and we cooked like on our campfire for a week. Um, we went and toured different places. We went on little day trips and things. It was but that summer there was no Girl Scout camp because everyone was busy getting ready for the jamboree. So that was 4th, 5th, and 6th, which was junior. Cadets was 5th and 6th grade. 5th, 6th grade, I think. Daisies, brownies, juniors, cadets. Maybe cadets was 4 years. Cadets I think was sub 6th, 7th, and 6th, 7th, and 8th. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. No, I'm right. 7th and 8th grade was cadets. You were a cadet for 2 years. Um, and so as a that was for middle school. Um, I I didn't for some reason I didn't sign up for day camp right away. And I don't remember exactly why. Um, but I got like the week before camp, I because mom was a leader, still a juniors leader when I moved up to cadets, because cadets all instead of meeting every week, because with the sports and stuff there just wasn't time. Um, cadets only met once a month, and so the one of the junior leaders, you always have to have two leaders there, and so they asked if she would mind helping out as a juniors leader again. So mom was still a junior leader, and so I was still ending up helping with set up for day camp. And I kind of said something like, man, I wish I kind of signed up for day camp. Even I what it was is I didn't like staying the night. um it was kind of getting to the point where the bullying was getting like, it steadily was getting worse. And I think that's one of the reasons that I didn't want to go to day camp, was because I I didn't want to deal with more, like, I wanted the summer to be like bully free. And one of the ladies in charge of camp, who was my leader in 6th grade, asked me if I wanted to help at day camp. And so, starting in 7th grade, I stopped being a camper and I actually started being a leader, or like a junior leader at that point. So, 7th, 8th, and ninth. So, when I was a cadet and my first year of being a senior scout, I went to camp, but I went as like an aide. So I helped out with like the brownie troops, because and they're like, do you want to help with the juniors? Or I'm like, no, I don't. They're too close to my age. I'd rather just stay and help with the younger kids. So I helped with the younger kids. I helped like in the craft area, because we always did some sort of craft project. And so, starting the summer of my sophomore year, sophomore, junior, senior year, um, starting the summer after my sophomore year, so Sam and I started dating. So I had so much going on, the last parts of high school. Um, but I was an actual leader, and I just stayed in the brownie section because they were so excited to learn and so excited to be there, and no drama, which is I really liked. And so I did that for 3 years. And then, I went to college for a year, got married, and then we moved back. I have not learned anything, apparently, because the year that we got back, 2011, mom was talking to one of the ladies who was on the day camp committee. And I kind of I made the comment offhand to mom, well, do they still need some help with day camp? I'll help in any way they need. Lena's a little bit of an idiot. Because guess who ended up with camp director for 2 years? That would be this person. They're like, well, we need a camp director. Mom goes, Lena will do it. And I'm like, say what? Lena's going to do what? So for 2 years, I ended up as camp director, which was actually a lot of fun. Um, the first thing that I had girls coming up to me in the grocery store. Lena, are you going to allow pranking? Lena, are we going to be able to do pranking? Because I guess there had been a moratorium on pranking. There was no pranking allowed, and you were actually told to leave camp. And I'm like, well, you're just gonna have to wait until opening night. I need to think about it a little bit. That was gonna allow pranking. I just wanted to keep them on their toes. And so I did the opening for camp, welcomed everyone to day camp, and I said, and I know that there are some groups of girls, the juniors, cadets, and seniors, want to know something terribly. I mean, you could see them almost vibrating. And I'm like, I will allow pranking, but, and they're like, oh. I said, you have to limit it to something that can be easily cleaned up, no destruction of property, and you have to know that if it's not cleaned up, you can't participate in you have to clean it up before you start your first activity of the day the following day. And a couple of the girls actually that I had been in camp with were like leaders because they had like maybe girls who were brownies, and they kind of nodded and we kind of all laughed because we all were thinking of the jet ski incident. And I said, if you there could be no shaving cream in tents. If a parent was overnighting, they could bring it later, but you could not leave shaving cream in tents overnight. They're aerosol cans, and aerosol in Kansas, heat go boom. So I said we don't want shaving cream all over people's things that messes up the tents. We always rented all of our equipment from council, which so it wasn't ours. It and multiple camps had to use it. So you think? Okay, that's Peach's opinion of this. Um, so they were very excited, and so I did that for 2 years. I did that in 2011 and 2012, and then there was somebody I was kind of ready to. Um, I was also a um, in 13. I was a troop leader myself, actually, that year. So I stepped down from the part of the director because I wanted to be able to do day camp with my girls as their leader during the day. And I said because the other 2 years I was overnight. I was there. I was literally there 24/7 from Sunday to Saturday because um, Sundays, Dad and I drove up to the outskirts of Emporia to the Girl Scout camp and picked up a trailer and truck full of equipment to drive it back to the lake to unload it, inventory it, pull the items out and put them in a box that we didn't need, and put our own stuff that we had in there. Like, we would take out their salt and pepper and their pot holders and their scrubbies, and we would provide our own because you didn't really know like other people's stuff. That's because we had what was called a cook box, and I'll go into what a cook box is in another stream. um, but it was a long week, and so I would be there at like if the girls got there at 3. Of course, parents are gonna start dropping them off at like 2. I had to have a leader meeting, and that started at 1. I was there at least by 11. And if you think about it, the fact that I was overnighting with the girls and getting up and going home and getting some sleep, I was pretty much getting up, going up to the lake, doing day camp, doing overnight camp, getting up, going back to my parents. I was staying at mom and dad, so I didn't have to drive all the way to Hillsboro. and sleeping for 2 hours to get up, eat something, and go back out to the lake. I think I slept for the next month. So I knew because I was also a Girl Scout troop leader in 2013. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so I was upfront with the girls. I found a couple people who were willing to overnight with the girls and said, "Okay, I will be with you guys during the day." And then when after the girls that were older did their crafts and their fun activities more in the evening so that we could get the brownies and stuff done during the daytime time. Pretty much the girls came, cooked dinner, did a snack, did an activity, and went home. But the girls who overnighted, we had to find more for them to do, so they always did their activities in the evening. So, um, thank you for that, peaches. I didn't want to have to do an. I could not do another week like that. I had some pretty high maintenance girls in my group, and I knew that one, I kind of couldn't deal with it for 24/7, 7 days a week for a week. So I talked to a couple of moms, and I had one mom who was willing to stay all the nights, because she could take some vacation time, and there always had to be twos, and then I had a couple other moms who would take like a couple days here and a couple days there, so I was able to work it out that I only did the daytime portion. And I mean, like I sometimes stayed and kind of hung out with them afterwards, and like especially the nights that we like did s'mores and stuff. Like I just didn't stay overnight, and that was really fun. But then in 2014, the end of 2013, I started working full time at the chamber, and uh, there it wasn't really going to work for me to one. I couldn't be off work in time to go over and deal with troop meetings. The few girls that I had decided not to continue with scouts, because they were going into middle school, because typically you follow your girls through, a lot of leaders do. They were going into seventh grade, going into sports, and typically that's where a lot of people fall out of scouts or they start doing scouts independently, which is pretty much what I ended up doing. I was a registered Girl Scout, even though I wasn't really part of a troop. I did things on my own. Um, you are very talkative this morning. Yeah, you are very talkative this morning. Are you telling everyone that you want to go out and make s'mores or something? Apparently not. So it ended up working out because I started working for the chamber. Um, and I think one the summer of 2014, I went out a couple nights and helped, but I really didn't. I couldn't commit to anything, and I was kind of hoping because I wasn't working for the chamber anymore this year, before everything kind of went crazy, and of course they didn't have day camp this year. I was going to offer to help again, and it just didn't work out that way. So maybe next summer I will be able to do that. But that's a long-winded way to tell you about this cookbook, but that's okay. It's Monday morning Mussings, and Monday mornings can get a little bit off topic because we're recovering from the weekend. But there are it's just a very, very thin little cookbook. It's pretty much favorite recipes, the tried and true that you can get a group of girls to agree on. There's everything from there's pretty much a main dish, a side dish, and a breakfast included in this. And the first print. This is what the inside says. The Cottonwood Cove Day Camp Cookbook, June 1995. This cookbook is a collection of recipes used in past years at Cottonwood Cove Girl Scout Day Camp. We hope that you enjoy them as much as we do. All proceeds from the sale of this cookbook will be used for Cottonwood Cove Day Camp. Note, a box 7 equals 350 degrees. This is the second printing. The first printing of this book was in July of 1989. So, tried and true recipes, 1989. So I would have been 2 when this was originally put together. Um, Even though this is a copy and I didn't get it directly from the day camp, I'm still going to, I've made a donation over the weekend. I sent it via PayPal to one of the ladies who works with the day camp. And she's like, she messaged me and goes, "Why did you just send me $5?" I'm like, "Oh, I got a copy of the cookbook." And she's like, "But you didn't get it from us." I'm like, "That's okay. I still want to make a donation because I would have paid $5 for it um, if I'd gotten it at camp." And so it just, it gives ideas for main dishes, tacos, hot dogs, hamburgers. There are some things that I don't ever remember making, like burger dogs. The funnier thing is that I think the day that I got this on Friday, Sam and I were watching, it was sometime last week. If you follow Tim Tracker, he made a burger dog. Like he took a hot dog and wrapped it in a hamburger and grilled it. And I was flipping through this and I saw burger dogs and I about died laughing. It's 1.5 pounds of hamburger, 1.5 cups of tomato sauce, 2 tablespoons of water, 10 hot dogs, 1 onion chopped, and 10 hamburger buns. You brown the hamburger and onion in a Dutch oven. Everything consists of needing a Dutch oven. Um, Drain grease, add tomato sauce, water, and hot dogs sliced into tiny pieces. Simmer for 15 minutes, serve on hamburger buns. I tell you, we never ate that. But I was like, wow, that maybe I should send this recipe to Tim and Jen. Maybe they'll make it on a video. But there's recipes in here that we never had. There's recipes that in here that I swear I had every summer, that I was at camp, like banana boats. Banana boats was one of our favorite things to do. It's bananas, chocolate chips, and mini marshmallows. You take and you leave the banana in the skin. You take a knife and you slice slightly down, um, through the banana, and you don't want to cut through the bottom of the skin. And you kind of mush, kind of like you're opening a potato. And then you put your chocolate chips and your marshmallows in it, and then you just set the bananas down in the coals after the fire's kind of burned down, the coals still stay hot. You put the bananas in the coals, and you can either put them in a 9 by 13 pan in a boxed oven until the marshmallows are melted, and you just eat them directly out of the banana skin. Or you can kind of finish peeling, as a brownie, one of the girls is going, "Oh my gosh, this got skin." So the adults would take the banana skin off and it would be on our plate. And so I remember making these. I think I want to say that like mom and I made these at home one time because you could make them in the oven. Then there's like apple wonder salad. And you're probably going, "What the heck is apple wonder salad?" And it's 3 cups of apples cubed, half a cup of seedless grapes, and 1 cup of celery diced. You combine the apple, celery, and grapes, and then you add a peanut butter dressing. And the dressing is 1/4 of a cup of milk, 1/4 cup chunky peanut butter, and 1 cup of mayonnaise. Gradually add milk to the peanut butter, mix until well blended, stir in mayonnaise, mix well. It actually doesn't taste that bad. um, so the I've made probably 90% of these recipes at some point. Rice Krispie treats, ants on a log. Ants on a log, everyone knows. Um, Junk is another really good one. Hamburger, macaroni, salt and pepper, diced canned tomatoes, onions, and kidney beans. And you pretty much boil the macaroni, brown the ground beef, throw everything together and let it simmer, and you eat it. It's fantastic. So yeah, I've been really enjoying. I kind of did a few uh recipes for this in our grocery shopping, so definitely will be making some of those. Sam is not excited. He's like, I don't know what you're gonna do to me, but I think he's excited too, a little bit. So that is it for today's live stream. And I know there was like lots of topics going on, but that's Monday morning ramblings, Monday morning messings. I hope you all have a fantastic week. I will see you on Thursday. Just a couple things that are coming up on the channel. Grab my uh, phone here. So on September 7th, it's a Monday, there will not be a live stream. Sam and I are going to be out of town for the weekend for Labor Day. I'm hanging out with some friends, and so we will not be I will not be live streaming that day. Um and then my birthday is on Wednesday, September 9th, and so I am flip-flopping weight loss Wednesday and my Thursday live stream. So it'll be Weight Loss Wednesday on a Thursday, and my Thursday live stream will be on Wednesday, September 9th at 2 p.m. Central Time. And hopefully, I will be having some friends join me. Some may stay the full couple hours, some may pop in and out. It just kind of depends on everybody. We can have up to 10 people, including myself, on the stream. So we will just see what happens there. Um, so that, and on this Friday, which is the 21st, we are celebrating over on the Mickey Bunch channel, spilling the Disney tea, their 1 year anniversary. I will be on at 6, and for a little bit extra, I'm going to be on a little while longer. There's going to be giveaways every hour. Make sure to go check out all 4 videos from the ladies Cinder Alley Loves Disney, Christy's Corner, the Mickey Bunch, and Taylor Made Magic. Make sure to comment on their giveaway videos and make sure that you are subscribed publicly to them so that you can get entered into those drawings. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this morning, and I'm going to get me some more coffee because I have 2 different types of creamers. I guess I didn't share this with you yet. I have a Starbucks white chocolate mocha creamer, and then I have the best fall pumpkin spice creamer. So I'm going to enjoy some more coffee, and get ready for a fantastic week. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you back on Thursday for another live stream. Bye, everyone.